Hello, 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 hello out there in the internet lands, and welcome to You've Got a Thing, an interview thing about Milwaukee theater things. I have a big show for you today. Over the course of the past couple of weeks, I've done several interviews with people because there's a lot going on in December. And so I just wanted to celebrate that with one big show for you all. So today we're going to have interviews with Andy Hobgood, George Lorimer, and Mr. Michael Unger from Skylight. Sorry, I should have introduced people Unger, but that's how my brain works. So I'm not gonna waste any time here. I'm gonna just go ahead and get into the interviews. The first one that we have for you here is Andy Hobgood. He is directing a very deadly constructivist holiday over at the Constructivists today, which is my company. I thought I would do these alphabetically by company to keep it, what is that, egalitarian or something? Words. And so, but I just want you to get to know him a little bit and hear a little bit about how the process works and whatnot. And so, without further ado, here is Andy Hobgood for the Constructivists. Okay, and now I am here with Mr. Andy Hobgood I don't know what you would say, of indie theater fame. If that's a good way to put it.
Yes. Equivalent of local celebrity.
Yeah, we'll get into a little bit about like your transition from Chicago to here in a little bit. But so Andy has very graciously taken over directing a very deadly constructivist holiday at the Constructivists, which is my company. I directed its first iteration last year, and now I after 7 seasons, I wanted to frankly not direct everything.
Just stop for a second
anymore. I would like to just get a different scope on, because you know how it is, like you just start getting like tunnel vision, and
and every show leads right into the next. That's the other thing. You're just like, there is no like, it's like you're driving on a highway and the exits are always on the other side of the road.
yeah.
Like, I wish I could visit, but no.
That's an excellent way of putting it. That's exactly what it feels like. And so I finally got an exit.
Yes.
And Andy is it. And so Andy, just so that people can get sort of a good baseline of where you've come from, because I just think around Milwaukee, probably not a lot of people. I mean, you've been hanging around the Constructivists for like a year and a half now, so we're all like, oh yeah, Andy, and just Andy.
Weirdo.
But I think probably a larger Milwaukee base probably doesn't know that much about you. So can you just give a quick little explanation of how you ended up in the Milwaukee theater community?
Yeah, so moved here 3 years ago from Chicago with my partner Joe Lino. We were both theater artists in Chicago, and ultimately, I had a theater company, the New Colony, that I had founded, and we were about 13 years old when the pandemic hit. And so when the pandemic happened, I know, I know, I can't wait till that word doesn't trigger all of us.
Never gonna happen.
I was gonna say, not in our lifetime.
Never gonna happen.
I'll be 98 and
pandemic.
But so what really happened was the Chicago theater scene just kind of got decimated.
Yeah.
As many theater scenes around the country did. but they're, in a scene or a city like Chicago, when you hit that kind of like implosion, there's a point where like it kind of has to keep going until it reaches the bottom before it can bounce back. And we really weren't, like patient enough to wait to bounce, for that. And also there was a little bit of, I will honestly say there's a little bit of disappointment in how the Chicago community, not the Chicago theater community, but how the city community did not come out really to save the arts and theater community. And so it's kind of like felt like after, I'd been working my butt off on a company for them for 13 years, and just to be like, sorry, y'all, that was super fun, but hope you can solve this for yourselves. And so it did also just feel like I didn't really want to reinvest. I was like, well, I did all that time there, and this is what it got me. So we decided that we were looking for more of like a local. Like we were like, okay, so let's focus more on like how can we create more of a local scene, and find that, find that same like new theater like opportunity, and like be able to create new stuff, but in a city where, perhaps the community might actually be a real community and not just a community by zip code.
Fair, yeah. So y'all just popped on up an hour and a half up the road.
And it was actually supposed to just be for a year. Like it literally was. This was just our like, we'll just do a year. We'll see what it's like. And then it was like a year and a half later, we were like, oh yeah, no, we're not leaving. Just because it's just such a like it's just too fun. Like Milwaukee's too much fun. We're just loving it too much. So you're stuck with us.
I don't feel bad about that. I don't feel bad about that at all. So, but you reached out to me on LinkedIn a little, about a year and a half ago, and just like, hey, I'm from the Chicago theater community. You were in the Chicago theater community. Wanted to get together and chat, and so we got together and chatted, and over the course of that conversation, Acapocalypse sprang out that conversation, because we have under construction, and that's absolutely your wheelhouse. That whole new playwriting experience is where you live.
Yeah, that's literally, the 13 years of the New Colony, I literally did not direct a single play during that time that had been written previously to my involvement. It was, I literally spent over a decade of my life only working on world premieres. And it wasn't like 5 world premieres. It was like, we produced over 30 of those world premieres ourselves, but then there was at least another, 75, 80, 90 scripts that we just helped develop that got taken elsewhere. So that was part of, so that was actually part of reaching out to you, was try, like we purposely also came to Milwaukee because there wasn't like a huge new playwriting scene, and it was, it felt like an opportunity to try to introduce one, because there wasn't a Chicago playwriting scene before there was, it's like it always has to start with somebody just going like, hey, we can tell stories here. And that's why Acapocalypse, Econo Acapella's acapella practice has been canceled. Like, and it was, getting to, the very first thing we created here was about a community in Wisconsin.
Like it was awesome.
So, that's the beauty. That's why it's so much fun doing new works, is like you can actually tell the stories of the people around you rather than, the stories of, people from Oklahoma in the 1920s. It's like, yeah, that's interesting, but Wisconsin, the Midwest has plenty of stories we can be telling. There's no shortage of weird things that have happened.
It was a really, really great process where we got to take really all the artists that sort of float around the Constructivists and just pull them together and create a play. And it was so fun. It was just the most fun.
And everybody was so game for it too. That was, I would say that was the thing that we really learned right away with working with y'all on Acapocalypse, was like Milwaukee artists are hungry for like getting to do new things, and we're like, and
100%.
we were we were so ready. We were like, okay, what if people are gonna be shy or people are gonna be nervous or this? And it's like, no, they just like came out of the door like 100 miles per hour, and we were like, oh, you guys want art? Fine, great, we're ready.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So for those of you watching or listening to this, if you missed that, you missed it. You missed it. Because
Yeah,
it was here
something
and
else.
gone.
Yep.
But you know, out of that process, then you know, we did another version of that this year for our under construction, and then after that was when I was like, I am so tired. I need a break. I need some time away. I had a whole like a lot of family hardship over the past year, and so basically it was just like I'm really tired.
I need this time.
I'm really tired. Can somebody?
This time is warranted.
Yeah. So it was some rehearsal of In the Canyon, and Joe was like, yeah. So I talked to Andy, and Andy might be game to take over Deadly Holiday. And I was like, please, please. Yeah. Oh God. And so here we are.
Yeah.
Here we are at a very deadly constructivist holiday. So so the only thing that I said about like the structure of the thing that I wanted the same was that it had to be the 7 deadly sins. It has to be dark and funny. And I think that's the gist of what I said. And it has to be based in like it's like reality, like
we're trying to find like real stories, like we want people to see things that they're like, oh, that really happens.
Right. Yes. And the people can connect to it. But other than that, you really talk about, because you did sort of the same process that you do with new playwriting with the artists. And
well, so the fun thing, so what we did was, so there goes that head's phone. Wow. Just run away. So the thing we did with this, because it's not like there's a character story, it's not like there's the myth of Creed that we're adapting. Like we're taking just a concept. So we kind of adapted this process around like working with each actor to identify like, the first question was, how can, what are ways that you can define the sin you've been assigned that are not the way people typically do? So like very specifically telling Greed, like, you cannot use money. Currency cannot be part of it. And with gluttony, it was like, food can perhaps be a component, but it cannot be about food.
Okay.
And so we gave them kind of those initial challenges of like, I'm gonna cross something off the list that you're not allowed to jump to, and now you have to find something else. And so every actor came in with sort of like what their like new approach they'd like to take with the sin. And then from there, once we kind of identified that, we then went into the process of like, okay, now let's find true stories. Let's dig through the news and find like cases where we can identify that this, sort of aligns. And then, and so then the actors went and we did a bunch of research, learned a whole lot of things about social media influencers along the way, and then kind of put together a pop culture remix of these stories, I guess is the way to think of it. We very much embraced so we also talked as a group about what are the pop culture like touchstones of holiday that we wanted to talk about. And so like we talked, so like Hallmark movies had to be something that comes out, and like people are like, well, of course Charlie Brown Christmas, like that is just iconically in people's heads. And like the claymation like movements and things like that. So so that was where we kind of were like, okay, so let's take these real stories that take new approaches to the sins, and then put them into this kind of like pop culture like blender, and pull out something that's like a sort of a little darker, demented version of that thing that you loved as a child.
So it really is, though. It really is taking that spotlight and putting it on society.
Yeah.
Just like
Yeah.
Deadly Holiday is meant to be. It's meant to be.
Yeah. It's a reflection.
A sort of reflection of who we are as human beings.
Yeah.
And how that translates over the holidays.
Well, and kind of, I think I would say the approach, the message we really kind of ran with was this sense of like, the holidays are supposed to be the best time of year, but it's typically when we are our worst selves.
Yes.
And just that kind of
Yes.
like that kind of irony of like, why is it that we are so good at like holding those two very strangely different things together in our minds? And we just keep remembering how wonderful, perfect holiday is. Yet every time we reach it, everybody just goes insane and hates it.
Yeah.
But then we get it. It's like we knock ourselves on the head at New Year's and get amnesia, and we're like, "Oh, the holidays will be so wonderful when they come around."
Gets wiped away. It's just
the holidays are wonderful from January through like November 1st, and then you go, "That's right, this sucks."
November 1st, man. Somebody was telling me they saw holiday stuff out at Michael's in like September.
Oh, I know. It's the whole like pumpkin spice is now like what you drink at the poolside, and holiday is what you put on when the leaves start to change.
Well, because I do think that, speaking of pandemic, like post-pandemic, I think people really are searching for like comfort and ways to feel better. And about the holidays, holidays, like you said, we have this idea of It's a Wonderful Life, and
right.
Frank
Capra's America.
Like all the things that Deadly Holiday is supposed to poke at, all the cliches, sort of holiday motifs that we see every year, and people really like want that. But yeah, human nature takes over and completely just destroys it. Just
a little off kilter. Yeah. So that's the Deadly Holiday.
That's the Deadly Holiday. So why? I know what I want people to come and see Deadly Holiday. Why do you want people to come and see Deadly Holiday?
So honestly, like, it's so hard to find something entertaining to see during the month of December that is not just like saccharine, like candy coated.
Yeah.
And if you are looking for anything else, this is totally it. Like, it's a very fun relief.
Yeah.
From the holiday fair that you are being encircled by as you walk through grocery stores and Target.
Yeah.
I feel like if you roll your eyes at like, oh, gotta go see Christmas Carol again, like,
it's for you.
Roll your eyes right on over
to the
Deadly
Broadway
Holiday
Theater Center and come to Deadly Holiday. Yeah. That's 100. I really do like to call it alternative holiday programming.
Oh, absolutely. That's exactly what it is. If you're the kind of person who would like to laugh at things that might not typically be appropriate to laugh at during the holidays, this is a great show for you.
Well, I think everybody just needs a little bit of laughing at themselves.
Yeah, it's very cathartic. I think that's what it is.
Needs to just look at ourselves and laugh at ourselves to relieve some of that stress of the holidays, frankly.
Yeah. No, and so that's kind of So it's a little bit of a cathartic laugh that I think everybody will just like appreciate that little space from what you deal with during the holidays.
Awesome. Yay. And it's only $20. All of our shows are just $20.
Yeah.
It's at the Broadway Theater Center right there in the 3rd Ward. And, plan for parking. Give yourself some space for parking. But
Yeah.
it's quick. It's only
Like an hour
clocking in
long?
an hour 5 or something like that.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's
Fast,
just
furious, funny.
delight. Little quick
And
comedy.
then go do some more fun things.
And then go and do some more fun things. All right. Thank you so much,
Yeah, thank
Mr.
you.
Andrew Hobgood, for
Always fun.
taking over the duties and for coming here today and sparing us some time. And have yourself a good night.
Yes, you as well.
I just think that human is the bee's knees. I really enjoy working with Andy, and am really, really just thrilled that he's so smart and writes like nobody's business. And so I'm very excited to share this second iteration of Deadly Holiday with you. I'm really hoping to make this a yearly thing at the Constructivists and have a little bit of dark and funny in the holidays for years and years to come. And I think that, focusing on humanity and focusing on real stories, there is no shortage of human behavior that we can focus on for years to come. So you go to www.theconstructivists.org for tickets and more information on that. But next, we have from over right next door. So if you don't know the Broadway Theater Center, there's 2 theaters in there. We are in the studio space, and then Skylight Music Theatre is in the Cabot Theater, the big, I think it's like almost 300 seats theater. They're wonderful, beautiful space, and they are doing Oliver over in that space based on Oliver Twist. And I was able to get some time with one of my favorite people, Mr. Michael Unger, to talk about that process and those artists over there. So without further ado, here is that interview. Okay, so with me today, I have again the most fantastic, the most amazing Michael Unger from Skylight Music Theatre here in Milwaukee. How are you today, good sir?
I'm good. I'm exhausted after opening Oliver, but we've got 2 great casts, and it's a great show with some amazing principals, and it's a great big local cast, and it's a great show. Really happy about it.
We're gonna get into that, because I've
Cool.
seen the things going around about this cast and that cast, and I've seen the marketing pieces going around with all of the children's. It looks like all of the children in Milwaukee are in this production.
No, just 24.
only 24. Oh, okay, all right.
12 in each cast, though. So.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, let's first of all, because you never know who's watching, listening, or anything to these things. So remind the folks out there a little bit about Skylight.
Well, Skylight Music Theatre is Milwaukee's home for music theater. Been around for 65 years, 30 years in the beautiful Cabot Theater and the Broadway Theater Center, where you're performing your stuff this season as well, which is exciting to have you back in the building.
Yes.
This is our holiday show, which I love to fill with lots and lots of kids. It's a great energy and vibe in the lobby. It's just very exciting. And MCT is extending their show, so of Clyde's, which is also great. So it's a thrilling time to be in this building, to have all these shows going on at once.
It's
Love
busy over there.
Yeah.
It's a big deal right now. So talk to me a little bit about Oliver with an exclamation point. And sort of just the background to it.
Yeah, of course, it's based on Charles Dickens' Oliver Twist. So it is, one of the great Dickens works. Probably second to Christmas Carol in terms of, producing in the theater realm. But it's a really super smart, incredibly tuneful musical written by one British guy, Lionel Bart. He wrote book music and lyrics, which is rarely done. And it was a huge hit for him. And it's been revived many times. Broadway won a bunch of Tonys. It won a bunch of Oscars. It's one of the very few musicals to win both a Tony and an Oscar.
Yeah.
It's one of the greatest musical films of all time. It's just so spectacularly shot. Choreography is amazing. I mean, it's a wonderful film. But it's also a great stage play, and we have a wonderful cast, and great tunes like "Consider Yourself" and "Fine Life" and "As Long as He Needs Me," and I mean the hits go on and on. "Oliver," "Food, Glorious Food." It's just stacked with hits, as the kids call them, bangers.
Oh no! Oh no! La 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 la.
Sorry.
I don't think you can say that with a musical that was written in like 1968. I'm not sure that's applicable. But
let's just say they're great tunes.
They're great tunes.
You'll go out humming many of them.
Yeah. I was looking into that a little bit. Yeah, this was a big deal. The movie version of this was a big deal in 1968. That's awesome. What do you think makes it like a good time for holiday time? I mean, I haven't seen it in a hot second, so you'll have to forgive me on that.
Well, one thing that makes it good for the holidays is, it is a Dickens, and not that it's Christmas Carol, but there is that classical material, that sort of steeped in literature material. I think is always a good pick for this, but mostly for me it's because there are a bunch of kids in the show. I love having young people in the show, having the energy in the room, and it's just a great way to celebrate the holidays because kids are on school break, so I think kids love seeing other kids on stage, so it's kind of a win-win that way.
Yeah.
But it's also it's has some very, very dark tones to it as well. We are actually collecting every night for charity for the Sojourner Sojourner Family Peace Center. I'm so sorry to get that wrong first.
That's a mouthful.
Yeah, and we've raised money for them before, and there is some domestic violence that is represented in this piece between Nancy and Sykes, and we have it's not overt in a way that I think would be disturbing for young families, but it is certainly present, and we put a lot of it off stage, but it does deal with some serious issues, and we think that it's a great idea to raise money for charities around the holidays, and we are raising money for this wonderful charity that helps families suffering from domestic violence. So it does have the darker tones, but it is also so funny, and the performers we have are great character actors. And when you find great character actors who can inhabit these bigger than life Dickensian people, it's just a joy. It's really fun.
Yeah. Tell us about some of those actors that you got in that.
Well, Randall Dodge, who's the artistic director of Forte Theater Company, who was in Sweeney Todd here, I think, as Judge Turpin before my time. I'd never worked with him. He is an absolute delight as Fagin. He's so fantastic. And actually, the whole cast are either living in Wisconsin or born in Wisconsin. So our Nancy is this tremendous singer, Rachel Shanaker, and she, I think, lives in New York now, but she's from Wisconsin. And she just is such an emotional actress and has such accessibility to both the bright colors and the darker tones of her character. She's just spectacular. Miss Kyle Blair plays Bumble, hilarious performer. We have Candace Decker as Mrs. Corney, Becky Kofta doing another hilarious turn here. Becky's amazing. Yeah, Becky. So she's playing Charlotte and some other roles, but she's just hilarious. A scene with Connor Neckich, who's new to us, who is a brilliant young performer here in town, who plays her counterpart. And they have one scene that is just hilarious. They're worth the price of admission alone, but so are the kids. I'm not gonna go on and on. They're just it's an embarrassment of riches. It truly is.
I can't wait to see it, to get in there.
And Jared Hoover is our resident bad guy. Is this his third villain in a row at Skylight? And he's a lovely guy, but he's also plays a great villain.
It is kind of it makes you wonder when people do evil so well. You're like, especially when it's nice people, you're like, what are you hiding under there?
Yeah.
What are you hiding?
He's got range, so this is just
Or we
this
just
this is where we've needed him most, actually, in the last
so
3 shows.
Funny. That's so funny. Yeah, so tell me then about the kid thing, because there are lots of them, and
Yeah.
what is the theory behind the dual cast thing for people who don't know?
So I like to double cast because it gives young artists more opportunities.
Yeah.
It's certainly more work for us. We got to sort of rehearse 2 versions of the show.
Yeah.
But well worth it. Now, School of Rock, we did not double cast because just to find kids who could do all those things and play those instruments just was not going to be possible. And to rehearse, 2 casts doing that. But so anyway, that was not double cast. But this one is, and wonderfully so. And it also gives you some protection if a kid gets sick. We've had a couple of kids who are sick, so their counterpart comes in and fills in for them, which is a blast because they're looking at different faces that they're not used to looking at. We did rehearse with all 24 in the room at the same time, and we would do. Their casts are called Piccadilly and Trafalgar casts. So Piccadilly would be up, and Trafalgar would watch, and then sort of halfway through a scene we'd swap, and Trafalgar would be up and Piccadilly would watch. And the camaraderie is kind of amazing with these kids, and to watch how they support each other. There's no competition. They're really working to create their own versions of the parts. Like, I don't want anyone to imitate the other. So Artful Dodger and Oliver obviously are the largest roles for the young artists. And they're 4 wonderful performers doing 4 very different takes on the role, which is how it should be. And it's just great to see kids fall in love with the art form that we fell in love with as kids as well. It reminds us a little bit of why we're here, what we're doing.
Yeah. I can't imagine the energy that brings. I don't work with kids a lot over at the Constructivists.
Yeah. Well, it's never too late to start.
Never too late to start. I have tried. We did Pillow Man. Nobody wanted to give me their 12-year-old, so we cast like a 26-year-old as a 12-year-old because
that makes a lot of sense with that show.
Some people don't want to. Some people find that challenging. Yeah. So, how this thing is running for all of time? Is it not now?
Well, no, it's running for almost all of the rest of 2024. It closes on December 29th.
Yeah, that is an epic timeline there.
Yeah.
No, that's
good long run.
That's awesome. That's great to have that kind of stuff during the holidays. Have access to that stuff during the holidays. What do you want people to sort of walk away with on this one? What do you hope is the feeling as people leave the theater with this one?
We got to take care of each other, and family can take all forms.
Yay, they can, as those of us in theater often know.
Also, some people have a hard time finding a home, and those people need help to find one, as Oliver does in this.
Also true. Anything else you want to tell the people out there that they don't?
Come, bring your families. It's great for all ages. Also, our Skylight bar is hopping. It has a hot chocolate bar for the kids. Well, actually, I frequent the hot chocolate bar myself. It's really tasty, and we have drinks and fresh cookies like we have started. So, it's been a great festive time.
I want to come for the hot chocolate bar.
Well, you can.
I'm so very excited. No, I am. I think that's fantastic. Yeah. Well, great. Mr. Unger, thank you so much for coming and talking to us today. Again, that's Oliver with an exclamation point over at, you can get your tickets at smtmke.org for those of you out there who want to see Oliver. And I'm looking forward to it myself.
Good. I'm looking forward to having you back in the building soon. Very soon.
Yeah, very soon. Like next week, kind of soon. Well,
cool.
A week from, Anyway, right. Too soon. Yes.
Great.
A week from, yes. All right. Talk to you later, my friend.
All right. Thanks for doing this.
Oh, good times, good times. I really love what Skylight has been doing since Mr. Unger came into town. I can't believe. I think in one of the previous interviews we talked about how he's been here like 4 years now, and that the time just time does not exist. Time is not real anymore. But as you can see there with the videos, it's a really visually stunning production. So I highly encourage you to go and see that as well. There's a lot of opportunity in the next couple of weeks to just go like back to back with shows and support the community. So you can go to smtmke.org for that show. And then last but certainly not least, here we have one more interview for you. Mr. George Lorimer from over at Vanguard Productions, which is a newer-ish company, and he'll explain a little bit of that in his interview, how Vanguard came into fruition. Just a really delightful human being and really great energy about him. And so enjoy this interview with George and learn more about their production of All Is Calm. And we're with George Lorimer of Vanguard Productions here today. How are you, good sir?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So you guys are gearing up here to open All Is Calm, the Christmas Truce of 1914. And this is its second year that you're doing this. Yes?
Our third.
It's the third year.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. How did I missed that? Oh my gosh, I'm a little behind. Sorry about that.
No.
So, but is it the second year that you're doing it at the Presbyterian Church?
Yeah, it's our third year doing this show. The second year doing it in the Sanctuary at Calvary. The first year we did it as what we would call it, like a concert production in the Interchange.
That's right.
Yeah, very small, limited production value. And then we moved it up to the Sanctuary last year.
Right on. Yeah, and it's a beautiful space, and that in the sound that you get out of that is just amazing. But let me rewind for just a hot second for people who don't know. This is their the first time coming across Vanguard. Can you tell me a little bit about Vanguard, the history of Vanguard, like how you started it and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. And it really ties in with All Is Calm. Vanguard really started as sort of a passion project of mine to produce this show. All Is Calm was a show that I had deeply admired for a long time. And after I had finished up my apprenticeship with Milwaukee Rep, I found that I had a lot of free time in my schedule that upcoming season, as many actors do, and decided to take a swing at self-producing. And we thought that we would do one weekend of shows. We would, sell half the house or 75% of the house and kind of break even. And then, say that I got to do this show that I loved and then moved on. And I think we were really surprised and touched by how generous people were with their time, with their talents, giving us all the support in the community here. And when we put up our first show, we were shocked to see that this thing sold out. And so I think we struck on something here. And so that show really gave us the momentum and the support that I think we needed to continue producing. And so Vanguard wouldn't be here without All Is Calm.
Interesting. That's a I think a little different way to approach things. But I think a lot of people who are not sort of in theater don't necessarily understand how that whole process of like creating work for yourself, because sometimes you do find yourself with a lack of opportunities, maybe, you know, a little bit here in Milwaukee, but it's kind of a universal theme. There is a lot of I don't know, quotes out there of about artists, like I did with the Constructivists, creating your own work.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about that at all, about that process of creating work for yourself?
Yeah. I think this was very much a product of my time working with other artists and making a lot of connections in the city. And I think we were really touched by how generous people were. You know, it's a pretty big show. We had 12 people in our cast.
Yeah.
And I think that came from, you know, working with a lot of different people in town. And then a lot of other local theater groups were able to give us, you know, a little leg up for like a shout out, or, you know, putting us on a mailing list or something like that. And so
Yeah.
I think that was something that really, really pushed us in the right direction. And I am somebody who, you know, has a love for history. I have a love for music, which are such a huge part of this show. And I wasn't seeing it getting produced anywhere here. And so I think I found myself in this interesting time in my life where I had just finished up my apprenticeship. I was still looking to find work in the city, and I had a little bit of money saved up from COVID. And so I think I decided to just sort of go for it, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, self-produced.
And self-producing it. And I think that started with talking to a couple of friends and talking to some other producers in town and saying, like, what do I need to get this thing off the ground? And very quickly that started turning into, let's look for a space. Let's look for a rehearsal space. Let's nail down some dates. And then very quickly we were like, okay, we have some really solid dates and times about 6 months ahead. I really started planning for this show in about, I want to say May of 2022. Wow. That was our first time we did the production. And so, you know, as I was finding my way through as a first-time producer, I think giving myself plenty of time was really, really helpful. And very quickly we had committed to a, you know, space and to a rehearsal space, and then eventually purchasing the rights for the show. And that ended up being a very good motivator for me as well. It's like once we had finally committed and once we started talking about this more and getting people on board, eventually that ball starts rolling. You hit this critical mass, and you have to, you for better or for worse, you have to keep producing it. You have to keep sending out those emails. You have to keep reaching out to folks. And, you know, was very, you know, touched by how warm the response of the community has been. And we've kept bringing this show back. And one of the things that we love to hear is that so many of our audience members now say that they want to make All Is Calm their Christmas tradition.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's something particular about this show. Its themes, it's based on actual historical events, which, and I think there's a lot of people in, I think not only Milwaukee, but in Wisconsin, who are really interested in historical works. I think that's just, I don't know, just from, you know, my own family, just knowing how people are really interested and invested in actual historical tellings of things. And so can you just say a little bit of what the story is actually about and what it's actually based on?
Of course. So All Is Calm is based off the World War I Christmas truce, which for folks who don't know, World War I breaks out in the summer of 1914. And it's the British on one side, the Germans on the other side. They're fighting on the Western Front in France and Belgium. And during this time, a lot of the soldiers believed that the war was going to be over by Christmas. That was the line that was getting pushed on both sides. That it was going to be an easy fight. We were going to crush the enemy, going to be over by Christmas, and you're going to come home with your medals and celebrate. And very quickly, people realized that this was not going to be over by Christmas. And the Christmas truce took place during the first year of the war. And The Germans and the British are both in their trenches, and an interesting quirk of this trench warfare is that they were so close to each other that they could actually hear each other. And so they would taunt each other, they would make jokes, and around the holidays, they started singing songs. And there's actually this sort of trading of songs between the trenches that they would float over, that the Germans would sing a song, then the British would sing one back, and they would trade off between languages. And they, in a funny way, developed this rapport between one another. And then miraculously on Christmas Eve, so the story goes, a German soldier stood up out of his trench, unarmed, singing Silent Night in German, Stille Nacht, and walked over through no man's land towards the British. And at any other point in the war, this would have been a death sentence.
Yeah.
And the British did not fire back, and a British man comes out and meets him in no man's land. And then both sides eventually lay down their arms, they get up out of their trenches, and they meet together, and they celebrate the holidays together. And it's they traded songs, they exchanged gifts, they famously played this soccer match out on the frozen land. It's an incredible story, and about 100,000 men took part in this. It sort of spread down the lines as more people just asked themselves, "What are we fighting for?"
Yeah.
And then the show is composed of diary entries, letters, newspaper articles of the people who took part in this. And so there's very much a sense of documentary theater about this, where all of the dialogue is drawn from people who took part in this. And there's also plenty of music as well. It's really an a cappella choral suite where there's early 20th century music there, stuff from the time, sort of those patriotic war songs from the time, as well as plenty of Christmas music as well. And so it's a really wonderful blending of these two mediums.
Yeah, it's really quite the piece. It really is a really affecting piece of drama. It's I can still see it in my head from last year, how everything was set up and the sound of it. It's really intense.
Thank you.
Yeah. So how many people do you actually have involved this year?
Yes, we have 12 people in our cast.
Okay.
12 wonderful tenor bass singers in the Milwaukee area. As well, we've got a number of people behind the scenes as well. Our director, stage management, costumes, dialects, dramaturgy, as well as our company members. So all in all, we've got about 20 folks involved on this project. And these are all local Milwaukee artists, many people very early on in their careers. And I think it's a really wonderful way to get a lot of talented people in front of an audience here in Milwaukee.
Yeah, I think it's a great way to really spotlight the talents, because it's a piece that requires a lot of the artists. I think it's really wonderful.
Yeah, I would say as a cast member for the past 2 years, it is one of the, I think, most complex musicals that I've been a part of, because there's no orchestra, there is no conductor. And so you're giving yourself all your pitches. You have to check in with your other singers. You have to have a really great sense of ensemble and knowing where you are in the music. And if one thing goes wrong, if anyone's been to an a cappella concert before, it's really easy for those things to fall apart. So our cast is doing a wonderful job of creating this music, checking in with each other, and doing some really wonderful musical storytelling.
Yeah, I would agree. I saw it last year. I agree that there is amazing, wonderful storytelling going on. So you guys open December 6th. You're running all the way through the 22nd. So you're doing 3 weekends.
That's right.
This year. And it's at the Calvary Presbyterian Church. It's the big red church right off the highway.
Can't miss it.
It's like you can't miss it. It's one of those landmarks that you just can't miss. But if you want to get tickets, they can go to vanguardmke.com. Yes, and follow through all the clicks for that. Is there anything else that you feel like people need to know about about this experience before we let you go?
Yeah, otherwise, we're looking to share this with Milwaukee again. It's our third year doing the show. It's really exciting that we have essentially a new generation of actors coming at this point. Most
So
of our
cool.
folks are new to the show, and so it's wonderful that more actors are getting to experience this piece. The one other thing I do want to share is we have our industry night. That is December 16th at 7:30. That is our Pay What You Can night. So for folks involved with the MKETA, that might be a great opportunity to see the show. We intentionally put it on most people's dark days so that we can get other actors and artists in town to come see the show. So we hope you can make it.
Yeah, awesome. December 16th, industry night for All Is Calm. Well, thank you so much, George. I really appreciate you coming on the program, and I hope that you have great success this year. It really is a great show.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me again, Jamie Lynn.
Thank you, sir. Good human, superhuman, just a really lovely artist, George, and a real talent. I would say that I would look forward to working with him, but I think he's reached the point where I can't afford him because he's just so popular. So those are the interviews that we've got this week. It's just we are packed here in Milwaukee with some great shows. And just look at the range that you have there. It's with Constructivists, you got dark and funny. With Skylight, you've got full musical experience with lots and lots of people, and then with Vanguard, you've got really this sort of intimate project, musical also, but historical and amazing. So please do what you can to get out and see all of those. But then I also have just a couple more events for you to check out. We have here from Schmitz and Giggles, which again is one of my favorite company names. Patrick Schmitz started that, so it just makes sense. It's Schmitz and Giggles. They have this occasionally. I don't know what their schedule is for this. It's called One Star Review Improv, and it's improv based on bad online reviews. And there's a bunch of great improv artists to just do improv based on things that people write online, and I just think that it's funny and hilarious. That's coming up this Friday at 8 p.m. If you want to go and see that, that is at 420 South First Street. That's where the Comedy Sports Milwaukee is, and there's a great parking lot there. But if you're concerned about parking, they've got the parking there. It's something that I worry about. I'm just a nervous wreck when it comes to parking. And then also one more thing to tell you about Almost Maine over at Next Act Theater. This is running through next weekend. I had director Karen Estrada on a couple of weeks ago, and so you can go back and watch the interview with her. It's a vignette style piece. I think there's only 4 actors, and they play various characters and tell these stories about this place in Maine called Almost Maine. It's the residents never got around to getting it organized, so it almost doesn't exist kind of thing. Very funny and cute. And I sort of called it a romantic comedy. I think Karen kind of went a little bit about that, but it's really about people coming together and falling in love and things like that. And so that's a great thing for you to go and see as well. So go out, go out and get your theater on and go and see just wonderful pieces of theater across Milwaukee over the next few weeks here before you get into the serious holidays. And then you can go and see Oliver later if you want to take your family out while they're over for your holidays. If you need me to plan your calendar, just reach out through the Milwaukee Theatre Alliance site, and I will schedule your theater adventures for you. If you really need that, I will do that for you. But I thank you so much for sitting through this big holiday show. And I hope you come back next week. Next week, I'm going to have on Pink Umbrella Theater. I'm going to get Clayton Mortal over here. He adapted A Christmas Carol into a one-man show, which is just wonderful and amazing. Pink Umbrella is a theater specifically for disabled persons. Clayton himself is a person who identifies with autism, wonderful human being that has worked with the Constructivists as well. And so I look forward to speaking with him about his project. But I hope you enjoyed this week's show and my ugly holiday sweater. And I will see you next week on You've Got a thing.